And good morning. Thank you so much for joining us yet again at Coffee and Conversations. I say all the time, I'm super excited. This time it's personal. I wrote that in a post yesterday. My guest this morning is my very own big sister. She's a little sister, but she's my older sister, my big sister, Catherine Rossman. And Catherine has had quite the journey. And we're going to talk about that journey. We're going to talk about two journeys. One, suffering through liver disease and a transplant recipient, and also on a very light and fun note, becoming an artist. So Catherine Rossman is my very special guest this morning. So bring her in. Hello,
Hi there.
Catherine.
Thanks
How
for
are
having
you?
me. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just going to double check because I had a sound issue a little while ago. So, if somebody can just give a little thumbs up or a reaction in the chat to say that you can, in fact, hear me, that would be great. We were a couple of minutes in and I was just like chatting away all by myself. And it sounds like, well, nobody's saying that they can't hear me, so I'm going to go with that and just turn my attention to you.
Okay.
So, where are you this morning? First of all,
Well,
Catherine.
first of all, I'm in Florida, Naples,
Nice.
Florida.
Yeah.
And I was just saying before we started that it's probably about 83, 84, 85 degrees. So, not to make you feel bad, but it's absolutely glorious. The sun is shining, and I'm here living the good life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And that is a gorgeous painting behind you. Is that one of yours?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
think that's one I did last summer. And
I love it.
and brought it down here. And I feel it this year in my journey of painting, I've grown a lot. And as I look at it, I realize I need to take it home and rework it. It could be improved.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about your art and how you discovered that you were an artist. And but first, we're going to talk about the big stuff.
Right.
And that is, now, how many years ago was it? We were
It'll be five.
five.
5 years.
You had
Yeah,
joined me in Barbados
that's right.
one year. For some reason, Curry had
Yeah.
a work challenge and couldn't come to Barbados. And so you came and joined me, and you really weren't feeling well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I had been doing a lot of exercising, and I remember that I came to see you, and we were doing our walks, and the place that you had rented was on a really at the top of quite a high hill. And came back one day at the end of the walk, and I'm walking up the hill, and I was 30 seconds away from saying to you, you need to go and get the car and come and pick me up. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm thinking, what on earth is going on? I can't believe I am so incredibly out of breath.
Hmm.
And anyway, and then of course I swore up and down that some mosquito or something had bitten me like crazy, and of course, had to blame it all on Barbados, a beautiful
Of course.
island. Went back home, went back actually to Florida, and then flew home to Toronto. Went to my doctor and discovered that I had what was a large pleural effusion on my lungs. So the reason I couldn't breathe is because I had all this accumulated fluid on my lungs.
Yeah.
And of course, one thing led to another. I ended up at a complex care clinic where they did everything but turn me upside down with a variety of tests. And the final result was that I, in fact, had liver disease. So I was diagnosed with what's called cryptogenic liver disease, which means that there was no known source.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how it all began.
Yeah.
And I say liver disease because really, in fact, what it is cirrhosis of the liver.
Yeah.
Which immediately when you say that, people automatically jump to, oh, you must be a heavy drinker,
Mm-hmm.
which in fact, I certainly enjoyed wine and the occasional drink, but I was not a heavy drinker.
No.
So cirrhosis, liver disease, it's all the same thing.
Right. And so it was not, the other term that they use is lifestyle originated. And
Right.
your disease is a mystery, why you got it, how you got it.
Yeah.
But it was not as a result of lifestyle.
No. Although when I was diagnosed, the first I was on a series of medications, but the first thing I had to do was to stop drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Because you can't when you have
Mhm.
any kind of liver disease.
Mhm.
So yes, that was actually 5 years ago. It was my 60th birthday.
That's insane. And I remember, it was concerning,
Yeah.
but, any sort of long-term, big, nasty implications, long, 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 long way off
Oh
was,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, right? It was
Yeah.
like really
Because
nothing to worry about too
yeah,
much.
nothing to worry about. There were a few oddball things. I had to watch how much sodium I had. It was very well managed by medication for almost 3 years.
Yeah. And then things took a turn.
Yeah, then I say the wheels fell off the bus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all the unpleasant side effects of a worsening liver disease
Hmm.
started to come into play.
Hmm.
And I got very sick very fast.
Yeah. I remember the first time that you had an esophageal bleed. I mean, these things that when you don't know somebody with the disease, you have no idea what it is that happens or goes on for the person. But one of the conditions is esophageal bleeds, and all of a sudden you're in the hospital because you were vomiting blood. Sorry
Yeah.
if this is gross for
Yeah.
people, but
Yeah.
this is what we're here to learn about because it's
Right.
an important
Right.
important conversation.
Right.
And you actually had to have a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
And how many blood transfusions in the end did you have?
You know what? I don't really know. I mean, probably maybe 5, 6, 7. I had a lot of blood transfusions.
Yeah.
And
And
I
you
had
have a
those
very,
I had those esophageal bleeds several times.
yeah.
Leads you. So what happens is your liver's not functioning properly. The fluids have nowhere to go. They go to the path of least resistance, and the little veins in your esophagus can't handle where all this fluid is coming from, and it results in bleeds.
Hmm.
And then, of course, then you're on the you know monthly or every couple month path of a gastroenterologist who's constantly checking that and tying off these potential bleeds. So yeah,
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of things that start to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And along with that, and I'm going to get the medical term wrong,
Yeah.
but this fluid in your
Yeah.
stomach,
Yeah.
and then of course there's risk of kidney failure because you've got all this fluid that isn't properly coming off, and you again, apologies if people find this gross,
Yeah.
but you have to get fluids taken off your body in a
Right.
very unnatural way.
Right. So it got to the point prior to my transplant where I was scheduled every 2 weeks to have the fluid removed, which basically it's they're I mean, essentially they're putting a needle in your gut and draining it off, and literally easily 20 pounds of fluid. So it was at the point where my daughter, who was expecting and had a baby, I was wearing in that 20, you'd have the fluid removed, you're down 20 pounds. By the end of the 2 weeks, you're up 20 pounds. I was wearing her maternity clothes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so your body goes through a lot.
Yeah. So it was the fall of 2019
Mm-hmm.
when it was very evident that this was moving a lot faster than anybody had anticipated toward a transplant. You weren't
Right.
on the transplant list yet,
Right.
but you were moving in that direction.
Right.
And I had said that I was putting my hand up to be your donor,
Right.
because a person who is living can donate a portion of their liver because the liver is one of the organs that regenerates itself unless it's diseased, which obviously yours was not regenerating.
Right.
So you can give up to 70%
Yeah.
of your liver and be left with 30%, and that 30% will grow into a full 100% new
Yeah.
liver.
In a very short period of time.
Yeah, yeah. And so in the end, I was not eligible. And for those who know me, not because maybe I do drink a little bit more than my sister ever did, not because it was unhealthy, but because it was too small.
Mm-hmm.
And for an adult to adult transplant, you have to have a certain size of liver in order to give this much, in order to still have enough left over.
Right.
And even Curry, my husband, who is 6'3", because he was the next person to put his hand up, his was too small. So it doesn't have anything to do with, how tall or short, you happen to be, what your sort of body composition is. It's just whether or not you have a liver that is suitable.
Right.
Are you even aware of how many people came forward to me? And I don't even know if they came forward to other people to say that they, how do they go through the process? There were
No,
4 other friends
no,
who came forward, and for various reasons they didn't
yeah,
go through the process. It was either your BMI has to be a certain level, you have to be
right.
under a certain age.
Yeah,
I was right on the threshold of
yeah,
being too old.
yeah.
And you can't have had cancer of any form
Right,
in
right.
order to donate as a living donor.
Yeah. And,
uh,
and that was the thing also. Age was a big factor in the sense that I was 63.
mhm,
And, so all my associates, you were my youngest hope. Um, and I also, I mean, I suppose in retrospect, looking back, I had told both my children who were in their, late 20s, they're now in their 30s, that I don't even bother getting tested because I won't take part of your liver.
mhm,
And my reasons were at that time that, they were young, they were both newly married. Uh, Jordan had a little girl. Chelsea had just given birth to a baby, and of course, she was nursing, so that she was out of the picture anyway. And
mhm.
also their spouses. I said, don't even don't get tested because I won't take it. In my mind, they were just starting their lives. There is with every surgery potential risk, and
Mhm.
from my point of view, I wasn't prepared to have them take the risks.
Yeah. Well, and even from the perspective of going through the process, it is a massive organization that
Oh yeah,
determines whether or not you can be a donor, and it depends on all kinds of things, right down to your ability to take 6 weeks off and not have it impact your income.
that's right.
So, if you're the sole income provider, you can't be a donor. They won't let you.
Right, right. So
Um,
very,
and
very strict.
and what they're doing is they're taking a perfectly healthy person,
Yeah,
as in like you have to be perfectly healthy,
yeah,
and they're making you very sick.
right.
And that just sort of goes against the grain of what most medicine is about. But it
Absolutely.
is possible. And I do have a friend whose husband gave a kidney
Hmm.
to a friend.
Hmm.
And I just think that that's a fantastic thing to do. And of course, my liver is too small, period, to give any part of it away. But, there are infant transplants that are also required. But
Right.
anyway, for the sake of time,
Yeah,
we'll fast forward.
yeah.
So now you're like, the one thing in Canada, for anybody who's calling in from the US, in Canada we have a universal healthcare system, which means there's no front of the line service. And so when your loved one is like super sick, all you want is for them to be front of the line,
Right.
until you realize that front of the line means that they are the most sick,
Yeah,
because it's triaged.
yeah.
So you were the most sick.
Well,
And
and that's all, that was so stunning to me because I remember, excuse me, going through the process and meeting with the various doctors and social workers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it being explained to me how it works in Ontario. And then essentially you have to be the sickest person. So, but at the end of it, once I'd had my transplant, I was thinking, how on earth did I get to be the sickest person?
yeah.
How did that happen?
And not only were you the sickest person, you were, and I don't know this for sure, but you had your transplant at the beginning of COVID.
Right.
So you had your transplant on March 24th, 2020,
Yeah.
and we had all been sent home the
Hmm.
week before from work,
Hmm.
and everything shut down. We weren't allowed to visit you.
Hmm.
Like, this was, on top of everything else, this was like super scary stuff. And
Right.
they had already shut down heart, kidney, and lung transplants.
Yeah.
You were the last patient at Toronto General waiting for a liver.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. It's which is unbelievable.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, fast forward, you are perfectly healthy.
I remember my doctor way back in the beginning of liver disease when he was explaining to me how all of this would play out, saying to me, well, eventually it gets to transplant. And of course, my hands on, I don't want a transplant. And he said, well, we have people who do really well with transplants. We've got people who have climbed the Himalayas after liver transplants. And I remember thinking, well, I'm not interested in climbing the Himalayas. Like, that is not for me. But I am 100% perfectly healthy. My liver function is completely normal. I take a very, very tiny amount of immunosuppressant, which I will take for the rest of my life. And that's it. That's all I take. And basically the way, in terms of care, obviously I have to take care of myself, but everything in moderation, excluding alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. There's no alcohol. But in terms of, foods, everything in moderation, which is how we should be living anyway.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there's nobody, well, there are people more thankful than me, your kids.
Yeah.
But we are all so incredibly grateful to the team of doctors that you have for your lifetime now.
Yeah.
As a transplant recipient.
Yeah.
And I think it's just incredible.
Yeah.
So let's switch. We've got about 12 minutes left, 13 minutes left. So your passion, your discovery that you could paint was actually before you got sick with liver disease. So Michael, your husband, had died.
Yeah.
And your neighbor, Risa, said, come and join me for a painting class. It'll be therapeutic, blah, blah, blah. And you said you didn't know how to paint.
Right.
You'd never picked up a paintbrush before.
No, never.
To your knowledge. I mean, I guess as a kid, everybody paints.
Yeah.
So that painting behind you is fantastic, as is all of your other art. You discovered you can paint.
Yeah. And it's the best thing ever. It's really the best thing. She started me, it's sumie painting is what she started me on, which is a Japanese, it's watercolor paint on rice paper. And it is very, very relaxing and very meditative and a lot of fun. And then that sort of led me to try acrylics. And now for probably about 4 years now, I've been doing oil paints, which I love. And I'm here in Florida now. I go to a studio, I work with a teacher 2 to 3 times a week. And it's amazing. And I think, everybody says, oh, I'm not artistic, or not everybody. People say I'm not artistic. I couldn't do this. You know what? I think people would be amazed at what they can do. And it's something I just love.
Well, and I mean, it's not just something that you love. You are so good at it.
Well, thank you. It's all subjective, but
you've also had an interesting journey though, right? When we did some work together, so you were part of a group that I did.
Yeah.
You, I remember you playing with the idea that you were going to shift from a person who does some painting to calling yourself an artist. Now I've called you an artist. It's right on your name tag there. Artist first before liver transplant recipient. And you just you just participated in your first art show.
Yes. Yeah. And that's been fun. And I sold a painting and I'm very, very happy about it. So my goal was that I loved painting. And then, my next steps were also, well, if you're going to bring joy to yourself, maybe you can bring some joy to other people as well. And so that's kind of where I'm headed. And as far as calling yourself an artist, I think it's a big leap to say that because we're all so hard on ourselves. And, but hey, why not? I'm an artist a progressing artist. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to call you on that. You're an artist.
Of course.
You're an artist. Yes. And every artist, just like every person who takes pride in their profession or their craft is always learning and growing.
Right.
and becoming more of whatever that expression
Yeah,
is.
more
And I love your
proficient.
expression, which is around creating joy.
Right. Right.
And your paintings are very joyful. I wish I
Well,
had more
I try.
examples of them.
I try to. I really what I love doing the most right now are landscapes. And I like to for people to feel like they're going somewhere. That they look
Mm.
at a painting and they may say, "Oh, I'd like to be there right now." Or I'd like
Mhm.
to walk down that path, or I'd like to sit in that field of poppies.
Yeah,
So when they feel that way, that makes me feel good.
yeah. And I mean, that's transformative, even meditative for somebody to not only think they'd like to, but
Oops, it just
they
froze
can
there for a
transport.
second.
Oh, I froze. You froze. I think we're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, we froze.
Bring joy. Curry says, bring joy to yourself and others. What an artist does. Yes. Thank
Yeah,
you, Curry, for that
right.
comment. Yeah. Um, so you don't yet have an Instagram account where you are
No,
showcasing your art.
no, but I'm going to.
Yes. And your plans are to take your art to a studio when you come home from Florida
Now I'm hoping to do that. I'm a work in progress.
on that. Okay. Yes. You
I am a work in progress.
but I think that it's to come through everything that you've come through. We've talked about the liver transplant, but losing your husband to
Mhm.
brain cancer,
Yeah,
which we could spend an entire episode on as well, and
right.
going through all of that.
Mhm.
And Michael was just such an incredible person,
Yeah.
and going through your liver disease,
Mhm.
and now coming through all of this and having this second chance. You
Yeah,
were already living a great life, but
yeah,
a second chance to live a phenomenal life.
yeah,
And you're not only bringing joy to yourself through your painting, but you're bringing joy to others.
yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, I joke and say I'm a work in progress. I am incredibly, incredibly grateful to the donor family that gave me a second chance.
Hmm.
And of course, to all my friends and family who said a lot of prayers for me.
Hmm.
And I learned a long time ago that nobody wants to play with the kid in the playground who cries all the time. So we all have something. Things happen to people, and
Hmm.
they're devastating things that happen to people. And there's
Hmm.
there's nobody that's not touched by something.
Yeah.
But we're given one chance at life. I've been given two, and we just need to make the most of it. And if
Hmm.
I just I think I'd like to. I mean, it sounds very pompous to say be a role model because I think that's very grandiose. But I would like people, if they have a thought about me, to say, that's somebody who's been through a lot of stuff, but is still moving forward with their life
Yeah.
because that's possible. So, when bad things and sad things happen to people, people move forward. That's what we have an opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Life isn't simple and it isn't always happy. But I'm very, very grateful. I think I've always been a grateful person, but I'm incredibly grateful to people who do give someone a second chance.
Yeah. I think it's such a great message, and I've been reading recently Dr. Edith Eger's books,
Mhm.
The Choice and The Gift.
Yeah,
And this is a woman who survived Auschwitz,
right,
and it's all about knowing that bad things can happen, but you have a choice to not be victimized
right.
by them and to move forward and to move on. So let's finish. We're going
Okay.
to talk a little bit. I pulled some stats off of beadonor.ca.
Yeah,
And so we talked a little bit about being a live donor,
yeah,
and that is an incredibly huge commitment. I would have done it in a heartbeat for you, and I was devastated when I couldn't, and Curry was devastated
yeah,
when he couldn't.
yeah.
But it's not the only way to be a donor. And
Right.
it doesn't matter how old you are.
Mhm.
You can sign your card in your driver's license, or you can go to beadonor.ca.
Yeah,
So this is hard to read because it's a screenshot that I pulled. But 36% of Ontarians are registered donors. That's 4.5 million out of an eligible 12.8 million.
right.
There are more of us who can be donors upon our death.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else is going to benefit from our organs unless we choose to give them away.
Right.
1,506 Ontarians are currently waiting. Now, this is a relatively old stat because it was
Yeah.
December 31st, 2021.
Well, I think as of yesterday, it's about the same. It's around
Is it-
1,400 or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, you were very sick because you made it to the top of the
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
You were the conversation that started the doctors off every single morning when it came to liver. And there are several different kinds of donations. So, that is a huge number of people who are waiting. And of course, 21,000 have received a life-saving organ transplant since 2003.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness for brilliant doctors and scientists.
Yeah. And I mean, they really are. I had the privilege of meeting your team. You have a slightly different team now because you're post-surgery. But, in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't speak for the rest of the world, when you are in the process, you are looked after by some of the finest professionals,
Oh, yeah.
medical professionals on the planet.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And, being here in the US, sometimes people have an attitude that Canada's not the best. But I will tell you, when it comes to transplants and the University Health Network in Toronto, they are world renowned for what they do. That's where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it your surgeon who was Irish? She was working.
No, she wasn't the surgeon, but she was one of my doctors.
But she was one of the doctors. Yeah.
Oh, no, people, they recruit physicians from all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. The best of the best.
The best of the best. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So be a donor. That is the message. Be a donor. Sign your card. Go to beadonor.ca.
Yeah.
April 24th, which is your birthday.
Which is my birthday.
Your 65th birthday.
Yes, I can finally retire.
Well, you can't. You're just getting started.
Oh, that's right.
So April 24th to April 30th is officially a donor week in Canada. Apparently, Curry was showing me this morning something about Wear a Green Shirt Day is April 17th. I don't think I own anything green, but you know what? There is nothing like just going to beadonor.ca. That is the most important thing. It
is the gift of life.
It is not funding. It is in you to give. Yeah. And I know that's the Red Cross blood tagline, but it is the gift to give. Yeah. So, Catherine, thank you.
Thank you.
Artist, look at this. Artist, lover of life.
There you go.
And how to get in contact. Well, you don't have an Instagram page yet for your art.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. But www.beadonor.ca is where you need to go, and you need to go today. So to everyone, thank you so much as always for joining Coffee and Conversations. We'll be back to some business, some great, advice and strategies and opportunities for you to grow your business the way in which you want to grow it. We'll be back to that for our next time, every other Wednesday morning, live on LinkedIn from 9:30 to 10. Catherine, I love you.
Love you too.
And there's one more of us. We could have had all three of us on this morning. So Marilyn, I love you too if you're watching. And thank you. And thank you to everybody for being here this morning. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and be a donor.
Be a donor. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.